Hey, I want to apologize right up front because I was super hyper in this episode. I just don't even know what to say. I just know that I'm going to edit this in a couple of minutes and I'm going to watch myself and I'm going to think, oh my gosh. So I'm so sorry. It wasn't even coffee. It's just my enthusiasm for vacation tomorrow, but I apologize if I drive you crazy. Thanks for watching. Bonjour et bienvenue. Je m'appelle Lisa, aussi Fabernymph. And this is not a French-speaking podcast, but I'm leaving for vacation tomorrow and we're going to Quebec. And they speak French there, so I'm practicing my really basic stuff. Although I probably will not have cause to tell anybody that my name is Fabernymph while we're on vacation. Though I probably should pack some business cards because I never have business cards with me. Bill always has my business cards with me, thankfully. He should be my PR person because I'm horrible in that way. At any rate, hello and welcome. My name is Lisa, also Fabernymph. This is the 90% Knitting Podcast, episode 323. It is Friday, September 20th, and tomorrow is Saturday, September 21st, and we leave for vacation. Can you tell I'm a little excited? I am. I'm so excited. I can't wait to go. Anyway, I wanted to get in a brief podcast before I left. It hadn't happened earlier in the week. I was planning to do it yesterday. I had a very specific schedule set for myself this week because I had a lot of big things I had to finish up before our trip. And for the most part, I stayed on track. It was amazing. I mean, I'm usually pretty organized and I get things done, but schedule-wise, I'm usually pretty fluid. But this week, it was like, no, I have to get this done on Monday and this done on Tuesday and so on and so on. And I did really, really well. Wednesday, I got off a little bit in the morning and that threw me off a tiny bit, but I rebounded. Everything that I need to get done is done, except I haven't packed at all for vacation. Like my own stuff. Bill has all of our camping stuff and all of our stuff for the trip packed. Food, like for when we cook at the campsite and things like that. But yeah, my personal clothing and things, I haven't packed anything. I have my toiletries together, but once I record and get this processing, then I'm going to go in and that's all I have to do today really is pack and get the dog stuff ready to take her to the kennel this evening. So I feel like I'm in a good place with everything and I'm really in a good mood, even though it's really cold in this room, hence the fact I'm wearing my antler cardi today. And I put it on for the first time in ages, and I thought, I really need to make myself another one of these because I love this sweater so much. And I have at least one more sweater quantity of Cascade 220 Heathers in a really pretty orangey red, and I think maybe that's what I need to do with it. I need to make myself another antler cardi. Anyway, that's neither here nor there because I'm not making it today. But, yeah. Okay, I'm going to flip things around a little bit today and start with some stuff that would usually be closer to the end of the podcast. Then I'll show you all the knitting because, oh my gosh, I have a lot. I've gotten a lot done. I don't know what it is. The more I have to get done, work-wise, the more crafting I also get done. How does that happen? I'm not really sure. Okay, anyway, announcement stuff. I just want to let you know, as far as Whipstravaganza winners for September, that's your Q Cow winners, and also the September monthly makes prize winners. I will announce all of those the first podcast in October, which is what I would normally do anyway. But since I'm going to be gone through the first week of October, that first recording in October is going to be a little bit later than it usually would be. So I just wanted to give you the heads up on that stuff will be coming. It'll just be a little bit delayed because I will not be here. Also, along those lines, the Grand Grams totals that I usually update at the end of every month, that will also be delayed until I get back. So just hang tight on that, and then I will do that when I get home. The shop is mostly empty right now. I took all of my in-stock inventory out of the shop last night. The only thing that's listed right now are die-to-order items and custom order items. those things I'm leaving up. You can still order those. They just won't get dyed up and shipped out until after I get back. So a couple of the difference between dyed order and custom order is custom order stuff, I usually say shipping is usually between 4 to 6 weeks. Dyed to order, I try to get out sooner, like 2 to 3 weeks. So just know that, like, if you order a skein of the Pigskin Party colorway, or one of the Soldatna yarn sets, that will probably maybe be pushed back an extra week in shipping. I do have that noted in the listings, so that'll remind you, but I will do my best to get those dyed up and shipped out as soon as I get home. As far as what has shipped, the September Just Desserts Club yarn, that shipped out yesterday, and yeah, that's way early because I usually don't ship that till the very last 7 days, like within that last 7 days of the month. So you're getting your September club shipment early. Most of the dyed to order and custom order stuff that I had already, those orders also have been dyed and shipped. There's a couple, but they were ones that I just got, so they're not, just within the last week. They won't be getting dyed and shipped until I get back from vacation. But I think everybody knows that, who's placed the orders. I've let them know that. Any shop orders, like shop orders from last weekend, those have all shipped. And I got 2 wholesale orders shipped out this week. It was a busy week. Oh my, it was such a busy week, but I feel so good at having gotten so many things done and not having a whole bunch of loose ends hanging over my head. Although as soon as I get back, I will be dyeing for Needles Up Rhinebeck. I will be finishing the dyeing for all of the Holiday Harmony collections, because that's in process. I will obviously have other things to dye, but yeah, I'm in a good place right now, feeling good about it. And speaking of Needles Up Rhinebeck, that is my next and my last event for 2019, and that's happening on October 18th in Kingston, New York, at the Best Western Conference Plus something, Best Western Plus, I don't know, it's on my website. So that's coming up. As far as the rest of the podcast, it's pretty much all knitting stuff, all yarn fiber related things. So that's what we're going to get into. But I will tell you, I usually do pretty completed show notes with links and everything in the drop down menu below here. I'm not going to probably be doing that today. I don't really have a lot of time. Again, packing, I got to do that packing. So I will put up sort of a modicum of just really basic show notes, but anything about any of my projects you can find on my Ravelry project pages. That's the best place to head to. Okay, so I apologize there won't be completed show notes this time, but I hope you understand. Let's get into the knitting. I've got finished things to show you. Okay, first up, I have a finished pair of socks. My Fairies Dance socks are finished. These are the ones I started 2 weekends ago, I guess, whenever I was out in New Jersey, vending at the New Jersey Sheep and Fiber Festival. So, yeah, they were quick, because these are on my sport weight base, my Traveler sport weight base, and this was, the striping pattern is the Fairies Dance colorway, which was one of the Tea for Two colorways from the club earlier this year. And as I told you before, that shipped with 2 minis. I used the green mini that it went with for my cuffs and heels, and I just used the striping yarn for the toes because I didn't have enough of the mini to do the toes also, and the other mini that shipped with I didn't think would look right as toes when the other stuff was green. So this is how they turned out. I love them. They fit really nicely. I don't know where to put this. I'm kind of centered today. I usually try to have things off center here. Maybe if I scooch over in my chair, maybe that'll work better. Okay. So yeah, they fit really well. I love sport weight socks. Now, these are, as I said last week, a weird cuff length because I started out I was going to make them shorty, and then I decided that would look funny since I used the green, and then there would just be purple and green and blah, whatever. So I made them longer, but I didn't really want to make them full-length socks. So they're this weird kind of 4-inch cuff length, but it's fine because these I will probably just mainly wear around the house. I don't tend to wear sport weight socks in my shoes. I mean, sometimes I guess in the winter I do, but I mostly just wear these around the house with slippers on, so they'll be fine. And I love this colorway. This was one of the really I mean, I like all my colorways, but you know, I just love these colors personally. Like, this is definitely in my wheelhouse of colors. So anyway, my Fairies Dance socks are finished. It was just a plain, you know, stockinette vanilla, plain vanilla socks. So nothing much to really excitedly tell you about on those, but they're done. All right, so what else? I cast on and finished a group of things that I'm going to lump all into one project. Oh my gosh, this became an obsession for me this week. So I knit a pumpkin. Isn't this the cutest little thing? I saw this on Instagram because Maria, who's a member of our group, Seductive Berry, she posted pictures of ones she knit, and they were just so freaking cute. I thought I had to make these. And I mean, literally, like, I saw those and I instantly became smitten that I was like, I have to make those right this minute, but I couldn't make them right that minute. I think I waited till the next day. Or actually, no, you know what? I stayed up that night. That night, I stayed up late, and I think I told my husband, hey, I have some things I need to get done on the computer tonight before I go to bed, which I did. That was not a lie, but it was also the fact that I could sit over in my yarn room, do the computer stuff, and then work on a pumpkin, because I don't usually stay up super late to knit anymore like I used to. So anyway, this was my first pumpkin, and I think he's so cute. The pattern is called Knit Pumpkins. I have to move my show notes here because I keep looking in the wrong place. Knit Pumpkins by Stacy Leichfeld. On Instagram, she is Fit Food Art, I think, or Fit Food and Art. She's linked on my project page through the pattern. Anyway, it's just a super cute little pattern. And very easy, and it's good for any gauge. This one I used Cascade Eco Plus. It was just some leftovers, and that's another thing. This is perfect project for leftover yarn. So I knit that up really fast. I used US 8s for this one. I stuffed it with just polyfill. I have a bag of polyfill that's ancient because I never use it for anything because I don't typically make stuffy things. But I pulled it out and I stuffed it, and I used just a little stick from our yard, literally, for the stem, which is how she kind of shows them. Actually, she had ones, hers were much more neatly sawn. You could tell they were sawed. Mine I just snapped off. Sticks, we have sticks on the ground all the time. So anyway, and then I embellished it with just a little bit of, you know, scrappy yarn. So that was my first pumpkin. And then from there, the madness just went wild because, like, sorry, hold on. Yeah. As you can see, I went a little pumpkin crazy. One of the next pumpkins I did was this one, which this one I used my Ridgetop DK, which is my non-superwash base, and I held it together with a strand of Ridgetop fingering in the brown. And I think I used US 6s for this because that wasn't quite as heavy. I don't know, maybe I used 8s for this still. I might have, I don't remember. 6 or 8s. Yeah, this might have still been an 8. But the same thing, stick, yarn. I separated the plies of the yarn on this one. So that was the second pumpkin, and then I made this pumpkin. I think this was, no, wait, maybe it was, oh, it was this pumpkin. Because you really need to know which order I did them in, right? So this was the third one, and this was 3 strands of Ridgetop fingering held together, and this one I used on US 6s. So, and size-wise, I mean, it's a little smaller, but yeah, it's still super cute. And then I decided I needed to do a tiny pumpkin. So this was with 2 strands of Ridgetop fingering on US 3s. I love this little thing. It's so cute. And you know what? You could use the same pattern and like use all red yarn or all green yarn and do apples. They could be apples too, right? Anyway, so these were the first 4 pumpkins I made, and then I thought, okay, I have to stop now because I didn't do them all that night. I did the first one that night, and then like the next day I did, I think, 3 more. And I thought, I have to stop now because I actually have work to get done. And so I didn't do any more till the next day because I was addicted. And so I knit more. And I started with 2 more small pumpkins because I had the idea that I thought these would be excellent cat toys. So these 2 are actually catnip pumpkins. These are also just with 2 strands of ridgetop fingering, but I didn't want to put a stick in them, obviously, if I was going to give them to the cat. So instead, I sort of just made up my own little crocheted leaves and a stem. Yeah, it was so easy and so much fun. And the cats were all sleeping when I made these, but then Tippy woke up and I was done with them, but she hopped up on the table because there must have still been like catnip residue on the table, and she started like rolling all over the place because she's crazy. Anyway, so I have 2 catnip pumpkins, which I've not given to the cats yet. I may wait till we get back from our trip just in case they tear them apart and somebody chokes on a piece of yarn or something. I wouldn't want that to happen. Anyway, so I had those, and then I did 2 more big pumpkins, but I ended up adding some crocheted leaves to those as well. I probably could have made the leaves a little bigger on these, but I was just winging it. But I love this project. Oh my gosh. And you know what? I'm not done. There are going to be more pumpkins. There are going to be more pumpkins because I think I need to make pumpkins to send to people that I love. I think I need to share the pumpkin love with friends and family and complete strangers, maybe. I don't know. I'm not actually displaying them in this basket, although this does look sort of cute. I have them all sitting up across our mantle, which is already so full of stuff, but these look cute, just sort of nestled in amongst stuff. And yeah, I don't have the catnip ones up there. That would be a disaster. So the catnip ones I've been keeping locked up in this room. But anyway, that is my yeah, that's my pumpkin extravaganza. And again, that is the Knit Pumpkins by Stacy Leichfeld. Oh, and some of them I added fluff to. I don't know if you could see that. Let's see, like some of the later ones, those last 2 big ones I did, I held the mohair with it, the mohair silk yarn I have. Can you see the fun halo that they've got now? And then I also added some of that to the fluffy yarn that I just have on top. I think out of all of them, I think this one's my favorite. So, sorry, I feel like I've just insulted all the other pumpkins. Okay, so pumpkins. And I posted a ridiculous number of pictures of these pumpkins on Instagram, and if you got tired of that, I'm so sorry. Sorry, not sorry, because I just love these pumpkins. Okay, so then the other project, let's move on from the pumpkins. The other project that I worked on is now in this bag. Holy moly, look, this bag takes up the entire screen. This is one of Bags by Awesome Granny. You know how much I love her bags because I tell you about them all the time. But she's just started making these extra large bags. Like her large bags are awesome to begin with because I've used them for sweaters before. But this is now an extra large bag. And I did post pictures of this on Instagram too, comparing it to the size of just the large bag. It's incredible. I mean, I put an entire project's worth of yarn in here, and I said I could still fit a cat. The whole point of having the bag is to keep the cats out of the yarn, but just, you know, for an idea of scale, like I could still fit cat in here. All right, so the project that's in here, and look at the fun polka dots, and aren't these llamas just so they're just so cute, the knitting llamas. And what I think is actually really funny is on some of them, let's see, like this one, I don't know if you can read that. It says wool, but like the llamas are knitting with wool because llama fur is not wool. Wool comes from sheep. I just thought it was funny. Okay, so anyway, the project that's in here is what you've seen before, and it is the Any Gauge Tube Cow by the Knitting Expat, Mina Phillip. And I know I showed this to you last week. I can't remember how far I was, but this is how far I am right now. And this is the top of it. So this is all hand spun. This is all different, just small skeins and leftover bits of hand spun that I have. And the whole concept of this is to knit this super long, and then you fold it up inside itself so it's doubled, and then you Kitchener around that end that has the two open ends to close it up, and you've got a double thickness tube cowl that you can just put over your head. So I love that idea, but as I was knitting on this week, I just looked at it and I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be so hot as a double thickness cowl, because this yarn isn't light. Like, this is, I would say, mostly worsted. Some of it's probably as thick as Aran weight. It's just very heavy. I thought, I don't think I'm going to get that much use out of this as a cowl in that way, because I don't typically need to be that warm outside. I mean, my coats are warm, and yeah, I like something around my neck, but this was going to be really big and really thick. Plus, it's also very wide. I cast on 130 stitches, which is what she had said in her Knit With Me videos, and I realized that might have been a bit much, but I already had so much knit up that I wasn't going to obviously undo it. So I laid it out flat. Like, I put it on extra needles so that I could kind of lay it out nice and flat instead of having it scrunched up. And I measured it, and it measured, I want to say, like approximately an average of 19 inches across. So double, that would be 38 inches, right? 19 and 19 is 38. And I thought, this could be the body of a sweater, really. I mean, 38 is a little small for me, especially around the bust. I usually need like a 44, 46 inch sweater for the bust. But still, it was super close. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to try this on. So I put it on extra cables so that I could actually pull it up. And lo and behold, it kind of fit. I mean, it was a very fitted sweater body, like as a sweater body, but it fit. And I thought, you know what? I'm turning this into a sweater. So remember last week when I said, I do not have time to cast on a sweater right now? Well, I didn't, but I accidentally did. So I have an accidental sweater that used to be a cowl, but now it's going to be a sweater. So I have a plan for this. What I'm going to do is, so this was my cast on edge, which was provisionally cast on because, again, the original goal was to put the two ends together and Kitchener them. So before I knit any more length on this, I'm going to go back down to the bottom, or I probably could just do it. No, I'm going to go to the bottom. I'm going to go to where I cast on. I'm going to knit around there and knit ribbing and bind that off. Then I'm going to knit sleeves. Because actually, once I do the ribbing, this will be long enough to be a body, where it is right now. So then I'm going to knit sleeves. And I haven't quite figured out how I'll manage the yarn, because I do not want little tiny stripes for the sleeves, just because then it'll look super wide. I think I'm going to do big chunky colors on the sleeves. Or maybe I'll just find some hand spun yarn that coordinates with this that I have enough of to do the entire length of both sleeves. But I'm going to do the sleeves, and then I will add the sleeves into this knitting the same way you would do for any bottom-up raglan. So I'm basically retrofitting this cowl to make it be a bottom-up raglan. I see no problems with this, because then once I have the sleeve stitches on with the body stitches, I will be able to just continue up in bottom-up raglan style, which was actually how this was knit, I think. I'm pretty sure this was knit bottom-up raglan style. And then once I'm done, I'm going to steek it. So when I put the sleeves in, I'm going to have to make sure I orient them in such a way that they're a little closer to the front than the back. I'm going to make sure my back is wide enough for me. I'll put the sleeves in, and then the fronts, whatever I lose in the front by steeking, and also it'll be just smaller to begin with, I'm going to make up for by making basically extra wide button bands. And I figure even if it's not in the end big enough for me to button the whole way down, I'll have it big enough that I can at least button like the top part. It's probably not going to be like a sweater that I'm going to wear out and about a lot, maybe, depending on how it ends, but at least it'll be something I can wear around the house. And it will have used up a whole lot of hand-spun scraps that I was not otherwise using, or would have just been in that Afghan that I might someday finish. But at this point, I'm considering it a challenge and an experiment. So, and I really love it. I think it's going to make a very fun sweater. And I don't remember if I showed you the sweater that I accidentally felted a while. It's been quite a while now. I know I had it out here and I was going to show you, but I don't remember if I ever did, because sometimes I run out of time and I cut chunks of videos out. At any rate, I had a sweater that I knit many, many years ago, and I knit it without a pattern. Seems to be a theme. It fit fine. It was a little open around the top, but it was a cardigan, and I loved it. I wore it around the house all the time, and then I accidentally felted it last year, and the colors of it coordinate pretty well with this. They're very similar. It was a totally different type of yarn. It was a variegated yarn, not stripy, but the buttons on that sweater, I'm going to take them off of that felted sweater, and I think I'm going to use them on this because I think they will be perfect for that. They were absolutely perfect for the original yarn, which was completely just an accident that they were, but the colors were perfect. So anyway, like I said, I've got a plan in my head for how I think I'm going to make this work, and down to the buttons. Like, I don't know. Sometimes serendipity is the best thing. Sometimes it just works super well. So anyway, obviously this is not going with me on my vacation because this, sorry, I just bumped the camera. A little huge to take with me on the motorcycle trip. I may pull out yarn that, if I can find yarn that I think I can do the sleeves out of, I may take the sleeves along and work on those while I'm away. Because I'd really love to finish this. I mean, I've got the bulk of the body done. I just have to add sleeves and then knit up the yoke part, and voila! Then I threw some French in on you. I will have a cardigan once I steek it and do the button band. So it's not quite finished, but there's a big chunk of a sweater right here. An accidental sweater. Don't you love it when you knit accidental sweaters? And for those of you keeping score at home, if I finish that, which I will, that will be my 5th sweater for this year. That is crazy. Absolutely crazy. And I still want to do my weekender. So I could actually have a half dozen sweaters done this year. It's amazing. And, okay, so we're going to move on from the sweater to one other actually 2 other finished projects. Oh, I didn't bring the one in here. I have to go grab it. Okay. So I have 2 other basically finished projects. One is finished. The other one is sort of finished, but you'll see why in a minute. But they are both weaving oriented. So you have been seeing my weaving that I had on the loom, that was the cotton that I was weaving to make dishcloths, right? So I finally finished weaving that, and I've got this big long strip of fabric. So this was how I started out. So my warp was this white, well, cream, white, whatever, and then green, then white, then black, then green. So that's how the warp was. And my plan was to do the whole stretch of this, doing the weft that same exact way. And I got to about here and I'm like, I'm bored with this. So then I did this stretch here, alternating just big chunks of green and black and green and black and green and black, which looked fine. But then I'm like, yep, I'm bored with that too. So then I just started doing big chunks of color, like one color at a time. So here's white. Here's where I accidentally did 2 rows with the Heddle in the same position. I don't know how I managed to do that and not notice it, because usually that would pull out, but I did it. I'm talented, I guess. Green, black. Then I decided I'd like some other color in here because I was bored again. So we've got red, and another chunk of green, another chunk of black, another chunk of white, green, some more red, and black and green. This is, I can't remember how far. This is gigantic. This is my wingspan right here, so that's a little over 5 foot. This is not quite my wingspan. So I would say this is very close to being at least 9 feet long. I've done nothing else with it since I took it off the loom. Now I will say, when I finished, I did decide I was going to practice doing a hem stitch, because I've never done one before. And Grace from the Babel's Traveling Yarns podcast has demonstrated hem stitch a couple of different times on her podcast. Most recently, she did a podcast or a special video on warping your rigid headed loom for herringbone weave. And at the end of that, she did show how to do a hem stitch, or how she does her hem stitch, but she didn't show it in a very detailed way. The way she's shown it in a past video. I know there's at least one past video she's done that included a very close-up view of her showing how she does her hem stitches. I can't find that video. I don't think it was specifically a weaving video. I think it was maybe like one of her like Vlogmas videos, or one of those kind of videos. And then she just showed that on there. So I'm hoping I can find it in, because it was very good and very close up and very helpful. But I did find there's a bunch of other videos on YouTube that show how to do hem stitch. The one I ended up watching was by Kelly Casanova, and I can't remember if you Google Kelly Casanova on YouTube, or go to YouTube and search Kelly Casanova, you'll find her videos. She's got tons of weaving videos. She's from Australia, and so she's got a lovely accent to listen to as well. But yeah, she has a lot of really interesting videos, and so I've kind of been binging her weaving videos lately. But her hem stitch video, it wasn't quite as close up as the one that Grace had done, but it gave me enough of an idea to know what I needed to do. However, for whatever reason, even though the video was very clearly explanatory, I could not wrap my brain around doing this hem stitch. I kept watching it. I would pause it after every little step, and I was still totally screwing it up. So eventually I just ended up doing my own thing. It's a hem stitch. It's securing my things quite fine, but it's not the way you're supposed to do a hem stitch. And you can also see I've got tons and tons of weaving errors in this. Just as a reminder, in case you didn't watch when I first started doing this, this was the weaving that I did with a very messed up warp, because I accidentally warped my loom backwards and then had to mitigate that kind of disaster because I did not want to waste my warp. It worked, but it was horrible, and the warp was very loose and wibbly wobbly in certain places, and no matter what I did, I could not get it to be even. And so that's why I've got a lot of places in here where I have like my selvages are really messy, not because I was doing my selvages wrong, but just because the warp was so goofed up. But I've also got a lot of places where like I'm over more than one warp thread. In some places I'm over like a lot of warp threads, and it's a mess. But again, I'm just going to be cutting it up to make dishcloths and dish towels, so it's fine. So I did do that weird hem stitch on that edge. I did not do it on this edge because I don't care. I haven't done anything else with it yet. Like, I have not soaked this and dried it yet. I did one of the Kelly Casanova videos that I watched, though. She talked about when she's going to be cutting her woven fabric, especially cotton, to do like a hot wash. So like actually throwing this in the washing machine on hot, washing it, and then I guess drying it and ironing it, you know, to get it nice and flat. And she said that'll help stabilize the fabric really well. And you can do that obviously with cotton. You wouldn't want to do that with wool, obviously. So I'm going to do that when I come home from my trip. I'll wash this real good, and then I will proceed to cut it up and sew my dishcloths and piece things together for my dish towels. But it's done. At least it's finished, and yeah. So anyway, I don't think it was finished when I showed it to you last time. I think it was still on the loom. If that was all repetitive, I apologize. But as soon as I got done with that, the next day I'm like, I want to warp something else, because if you followed, you know, like I'll weave something, but then I let my loom sit for months and months because it's like, okay, that's done. because weaving has been a little overwhelming for me. But I really did enjoy that, despite the fact that I had so many mistakes and problems with it. So I immediately wanted to warp something else. And what I really wanted to weave this time was I wanted to weave both with a heavier weight yarn, and I wanted to weave something out of yarn that I really liked. Not that I don't like that cotton, and not that I haven't liked other yarns that I've woven with, but I've always woven with yarns that I felt like, okay, I've got these in my stash, I'm probably not going to knit with them, so I should weave with them. But I didn't want to do that this time. I wanted to weave with yarn that I knew I really liked to work with when I knit, and I wanted to see how it weave up. So basically I chose 2 skeins of my Bonafide base, which is my superwash DK that I've had in my own personal stash of my yarn for years. And I love these 2 colors together, and I wanted to do them in a project together, and so I thought this would be great. And then the other thing was I watched that video that Grace did about weaving herringbone, and it seemed super easy and super doable for me, so I thought that's what I'm going to do with this yarn. So that's what I did. Oh, it looks really nice in this light too. So I used some earthenware red and tree frog green. And basically you do your warp to, I'm not going to explain this well. I'll try to remember to link Grace's video, because she does an excellent job of demonstrating it and explaining it. But basically you're pulling your yarn, when you pull your yarn through to your warping peg, because mine's a direct warp loom, like it's 2 strands out there, essentially, is what you've got. So you have 2 strands of one color, then 2 strands of the next color, and so forth. And then that's how you also do your weft. 2, and then 2, and then 2. And that's what gives you the herringbone pattern. Now, it's really funny because on the camera, I can see this herringbone pattern really, really well. The light is perfect for that. When I look at it in person, I can see it better now than I could originally. But I think it's also because this has been washed, so it's fooled up a little bit. It's puffed up. It was harder to see. You know, if you, like the one Grace did, she had a very, I think it was a very dark blue and then a white yarn. So that pattern, there was so much contrast. It was very easy to see. The temperature values of these 2 colors, I think, are just too close, or the color values of them are just a little close, that it makes it a little harder to discern, but I still love it. I absolutely adore this. And what I ended up doing was I warped this. I didn't make a long warp because, number one, I was not sure how much yardage I would get out of DK weight yarn. I'd never woven with anything that heavy before. So I did maybe a 6-foot warp, and I knew that would end up yielding a much shorter piece because you lose some length. And you also lose width when you're weaving. But I did about I think it was, I don't know. I made notes somewhere. And I think I actually have a project page for this on Ravelry, to tell you the truth. My finished piece ended up being almost identical to my wingspan. So that would make it about 5 foot 4 inches, or 64 inches long. So that was too short to be a scarf, which was fine because I don't wear scarves. I wanted to turn this into a cowl, like an infinity cowl that I could double. So that's what I did. But what I ended up doing was I did do the hem stitch, and I did it much better in the actual correct way. It finally clicked on both edges. So I did the end of the bind off edge, like when I was done weaving, and then I went back to the beginning of my weaving and did it there. And so then I had fringe, because you always end up with fringe that you have to deal with one way or the other, which they were quite long. I've trimmed them a couple of times, but what I did that, and then I soaked this and spun it out, and then I let it just air dry. I didn't throw it in the dryer or anything. And then what I did was I took it and I put the 2 ends together, and I mattress stitched it, but I did that from the inside. Usually you mattress stitch from the outside, but I found very quickly it's entirely impossible to mattress stitch with fringe hanging right there. So I mattress stitched from the inside, and I decided to leave the fringe because I think it's kind of fun. And so I'm going to try to put this on. I have to back the camera up, so hang on. Sorry for any motion sickness you might incur here. Okay, so I still have not figured out how to put this on the right way to get the fringe exactly where I want it, but we're gonna try this, so you can do that, and then double it. Nope, that's not right. Hang on. Oh, for goodness sakes. Double it over, and then flip it over. Okay. This is very, very messy. I did this much better the other day, but I fidgeted with it for quite a while, too, so. Alright, well, we'll go with that. That's not too bad. Anyway, but I like it with just like the fringe hanging down the side. I think it looks really cute. And there you go. I've got a cowl that I can double, and it's got this fun, funky fringe on the side, and the fabric feels so nice. I actually was surprised, and I don't know why, because I guess because I didn't think about it, but you know, using yarn, like squishy yarn, because all the other stuff I've woven so far has been either cotton or other yarns that are not wool based. Well, the very first thing I wove was wool, but it was a Jared Flood's like shelter, I think, which, yes, the fingering weight, whatever, no, Loft. I think Loft is the fingering weight one. And yeah, I did use that for my warp as well, and miraculously it didn't break because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know I shouldn't use that because it snaps, but it didn't. Anyway, I didn't like that piece, and it was stupid anyway. Okay, so anyhow, what surprised me, because this has such bounce to it, like this yarn, and that added a learning curve to things whenever I was weaving, because it acted so differently than all the other yarns I've woven with. I guess I was just sort of expecting the finished object to also still have the stretch and the bounce that a piece of knitted fabric has, but it doesn't, because it's a woven piece. It doesn't matter what it's made out of. Woven fabric does not have stretch and bounce the way knitted fabric does, even in commercial garments. Like, it's a no-brainer, like fabric. If you buy woven fabric versus knit fabric at Joann Fabrics, you know, one has stretch and bounce, the other one does not. So that was like an aha moment, which probably should not have been as startling to me as it was, but it was. So it's fine. I love it. And like I said, I love the drape of this, and this just feels so good on, and I think it's a fun piece. But I was very surprised that, oh, this doesn't stretch at all. Because no, Lisa, it's woven. Anyway, I'm just going to leave it on for now, because again, it's, oh, sorry, hi. Woo. I'm so wound up today. Can you tell? And I have not had much coffee. This is my vacation high. My pre-vacation high is happening. I am really sorry. Okay, so this is my finished weaving. So to sum up, the two things that I would recommend to you based on my recent weaving patterns. Number one, I'd recommend never warp your loom backwards. Just don't. I would also recommend Grace's herringbone, warping your loom for herringbone pattern if you have a rigid headed loom. I think in general, even if you don't want to do herringbone, the way she shows how she warps it was very helpful to me. She did a couple of things that I had never thought of. Number one, she uses rubber bands to hold her apron bars onto her heddle while she's doing the warping. And that really helps with getting your tension of your warp even, or more even, I should say, because my tension's never completely even. But that was a huge, like, eye-opener of an idea to me. So I did that when I warped this, and it made such a big difference. And if you don't know what I'm talking about because you don't weave, I'm really sorry. If you do weave, or you're just a new weaver and you don't know what I'm talking about, watch Grace's video because you'll understand it then. The other thing she did was, once you've done the warp, and then you have to slay the reed by pulling one strand of each warp set of threads through the hole on your heddle. You have to keep tension on that warp. And it's great if you have a second person. Oh, actually not when you're doing that. It's as you're rolling it on to the front beam. You have to keep tension on it. But if you're doing it by yourself, it's really hard. And so what she did was she sort of did like this loose chain, like a crochet chain of her warp that she could easily hold while she was sitting, you know, behind the loom, rolling that onto the rear beam, and then, you know, releasing that chain as she needed to. That was amazing in how much it helped me get all of that rolled on, because the other thing you're doing as you're doing that, you have to be putting like paper or cardboard pieces in between the layers of your warp as you're rolling it on to keep the, again, it's all about the tension and keeping things nice and even and smooth. So those two things from her video are just a wonderful help no matter what kind of pattern that you're going to be weaving. So I would just highly recommend that video. Grace does very good tutorial videos, I think. And then the other thing I would recommend is if you're looking for a wide variety of very beginner user-friendly videos on weaving, check out Kelly Casanova's YouTube channel. I think Casanova Weaving, Kelly Casanova Weaving, I don't know. YouTube those words, you'll get it, if I don't manage to get a link directly to that in the show notes. She's got a really huge variety, and she is a weaving teacher as well, so I think she's got teaching videos up. I can't remember what this, Teachable maybe is the website. I'm not sure if that's just something in another country, if that's like everywhere, but whatever. Those are my weaving recommendations for you this week. I think that's everything that I've done. Let's talk a few moments about what my vacation knitting is going to be, because again, this is going to be a motorcycle trip, and as I've learned over the past several motorcycle trips, I don't get a lot of knitting time. So I'm not taking any huge projects. The one project I am taking though is a sock project, because that's easy. And I decided I have not knit a sock blank sock in a really long time. Sorry for the crinkling noise. So I am taking with me one of my Halloween Spookles sock blanks. I think they're so much fun, and I thought that would be a good thing, because then I don't have to worry about a ball of yarn falling apart, and I just have my needles stuck in there so that I have them ready. But what I'm going to do, because I can't make anything easy, I have to complicate everything, is I also am taking one of my sets of the micro skeins, the 10-gram skeins of the Halloween bright colors, and I wound them all into little balls so they're ready to go. And I'm going to use these just intermittently, really randomly, to put stripes in. Just like 2 row stripes, probably. I may make them thicker once I start this. I don't know. No, I think I'm going to keep them small. It'll give me an F-ton of ends that I'll need to weave in at the end. But I just thought it would be so much fun. So that's my plan. I'm taking this. Will I get a whole pair of socks knit on vacation? Oh, absolutely not. Is that going to keep me from taking something else as a knitting project? Absolutely not. I just don't know what yet. Like I said, I might take yarn for sleeves for this cowl that will become a sweater. Or I may just take like a hat or something. I don't know. I'd really like to do the sleeves though, because I'd love to get that sweater done. But that's it. That's all I'm taking. I'm not taking anything more than 2 knitting projects, because the other thing is, while we're on vacation, I usually do not look for yarn shops when we're on motorcycle trips. I stay in the moment with my husband, and we do our motorcycle thing, because we're usually quite busy anyway, because he always has tons of stuff scheduled, you know, on our itinerary. But I think this trip will be a little different, because I have scoped out yarn shops along the way. Not in, like, we have 3 days in the U.S. on either end of this trip. I have not looked for yarn shops. I know there would be some, but I'm not worried about that. But once we're in Canada, I have 1 yarn shop that I know of in Rimouski, and I have 2 yarn shops that I know of in Quebec City. The ones in Quebec City, I am pretty sure are open the days that we will be in Quebec City. There's actually 1 day in Quebec City where we will have time. We're doing a bus tour, and it's like one of those hop on, hop off bus tours. So I'm just going to make sure I know which stop is closest to these yarn shops, and then we can wander to the yarn shops in the midst of this. The one in Rimouski, I know originally when I looked at it, it was closed the day that I think we were going to be near it. But that may have changed because our schedule kind of changed since I initially looked at that. So I have to look at that again too. Okay, so that's vacation knitting. As far as new things, the only new thing I have for you is my bag that I showed you. My Bags by Awesome Granny bag. And I think everything else I touched on at the beginning of the show. Like 10% is pretty much all vacation. Vacation, vacation, vacation. Yeah. And yeah, shop news. I already told you everything. Like the shop is closed right now except for the pre-order stuff and die-to-order stuff. So I'm off officially. I have 2 things I have to put in the mail today that were not dry to mail yesterday. So they're going in the mail today. I'm going to do my podcast, like get it, what's the word? Processed, edited and processed and uploaded today. But everything else is packing. That's my plan for today. Packing for the dog, and I have some cleaning I want to do just so that our pet sitter who comes to take care of the cats and the fish doesn't think we are slobs. So anyway, that's it. I'm going to be gone for 16 days, and I will be back on, we get back on the 6th. I will be back in the studio and working on the 7th. I will podcast at some point that week. I don't know when. I'm not sure if they'll be doing any shop updates. I will be putting all of the in-stock stuff back in the shop as of the 7th. I think by 5 p.m. is what I said. I should have the stock back in the shop. But otherwise, yeah, I'll see you when I get back. If you would like to follow along on our vacation adventure, feel free to follow me on Instagram. My private account is @FiberNymph. Because I always try to post pictures there. I don't know what kind of connectivity we'll have, but as I'm able to connect to the internet, I will upload pictures there if you want to follow along. Otherwise, I'll see you in a few weeks. Hope you are enjoying the end of your summer. Happy autumnal equinox. That's on Monday. It's really late this year, the 23rd. It's usually like the 20th or the 21st. But yeah, it's a little bit late this year, but happy beginning of autumn, and I will see you later. Bye!